let me start by telling you about myself and what this talk is about. My name is Dhillan. I'll get into what I do work-wise and all of that a little later, but essentially I'm not going to be talking so much about the technical or the training aspects of climbing. Yes, this is a talk entitled Action, but I think, I'm going to go more through my personal journey with climbing, what it's done for me as a human being, some of the experiences that I've had, yes, how I train, how I eat, my focus, and it would be nice if the takeaway from this could be to whatever it is that you like. It doesn't have to be climbing. It could be figuring out, a way to segregate garbage. It could be mowing someone's lawn. It could be cleaning a bathroom. It could be designing tissue paper and making origami art out of it. The idea is to go full on after whatever it is that you love. And there's always going to be any number of reasons to say yes, but time, but this, but that. But luckily, we live in a better age. We live in a more flexible age of many opportunities where it's possible to have a Batman-like life, where you can have one thing going to give you the money and you have another thing and you can pursue that just as vigorously. So essentially, yes, this is the story of my life through the lens of climbing. Right. That is an area in Himachal Pradesh. So that's called Chatru. That particular boulder has a name. It's called Smiling Goddess, and it's one of the most magnificent areas to climb. It's at 3,500 meters. You have a river going down, and then you have huge cliffs and peaks on one side. You have big rock faces on the other, and you have a valley that's filled with boulders. And so that's one of the places that I go to boulder to. I went there last season, and that's my friend Vikas. I was taking the picture. And it really is something. So the thing is, one of the hardest questions to answer as a climber, believe me, climbers get this a lot. So what do you get from climbing? Do you get, what is your remuneration? Do you get the money? No. Why you are climbing? What interest is there? What is the feeling? It's so, of the many things climbers have succeeded at, this is the one thing that they have continuously failed at. Explaining to someone why it is we climbed and what that thrill is. It's so personal. I think that's the reason. Why I climb and my philosophy of that lifestyle could be very different from Lokesh. It could be very different from Zabel. It could be very different from, a variety of people. My challenge is different from his. So it's one of those sports where it's sort of like a sport meeting an art form, because there's no single metric or judgment saying, oh, you are a more advanced and a better climber who's done more, It means more to you than it means to the other one. I guess because it's so personal, people find it really hard to articulate. So I'm not going to be pompous enough to try and paint all climbing with one brush. I'm going to tell you why I climbed, and if that makes sense to you, it does. If it doesn't, then I have joined the ranks of many others who failed trying to do this. I climbed because it makes me extremely happy. Simple. I love it. It makes me extremely, extremely happy. It is perhaps the most positive experience in my life. It gives me peace. It gives me focus. It has really helped me become a better human being, less egotistic, more hardworking, more honest. It's given me a lot of insight into myself. It's allowed me to travel and climb in some, visit some spectacular places and meet some spectacular people. And I'm a bit obsessive. I like having that one thing where I'm just like, I really, really, really go after it and I lose myself in it. There's a nice quote from an author. His name's John Crocker. And it's one of the quotes that makes a bit of sense to the way I see things. He says, in immoderation lies rapture. And it's kind of like that. I like that, that extremity. But that's just my blabber. So I'm going to get into the actual factual part of it, which is how I started climbing. So there's just a throwback. This was the first time I ever visited Hampi. This was the end of 2010. I think it was December. Yeah, 2010. It was the first time that I climbed a lot on rock. And I started, so by background, I'm a radio professional. I started working in radio in 2006 in World Space. I was working for an FM station, Radio Indigo, back at World Space, then World Space closed, and then we were all part of a startup called Timber Media, and then I moved on to becoming an independent consultant, and now I work for a company called Radio Wala. My job is to make playlists for internet radio stations and retail radio stations. Essentially, I program music right now. So that's a bit of background. So what had happened was WorldSpace had closed and everyone had sort of moved into this new company. And it was a startup, and I don't know how many of you over here work in startups, but work can be really snail pace. Everyone walks into the office at 2 o'clock. What's happening today? Yeah, they said they're going to call, there will be meetings, so you guys come up with some ideas. Okay, let's go have a milkshake and go home. It was like that. That has its own thrill, It's like when you're a kid, summer vacations, you enjoy just being that way for a while, but then you get restless. And same thing happened to me. I was feeling creatively unproductive. I was feeling physically restless, and I wanted to do something. And I knew about climbing. So I said, okay, fine. Why don't I do this? I know it's something I'll enjoy. And I think I can do it quite regularly. It wouldn't be an effort. So I said, okay, I'm going to climb. So there's a climbing, the country bus station? Okay, there's a climbing wall over there. So I decided with a friend of mine saying, okay, we will go and we will start. And that really was that. I went, I met a person called Mani who trained me and who's become a good friend over the years. And I asked him, I said, so how do I start? He's like, come tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Put on the canvas shoes and come. The game talks. And so I bought canvas shoes and I landed up there. And that's basically how I started. There was no big dramatic affair to it. And the first couple of years, it was on and off. I enjoyed climbing, but I did not have the discipline to really, push myself. I didn't have all these goals. I want to climb this grade. I want to be at that level. I want to win a medal here. I didn't have all these. I was just climbing. I was like, okay, I'm climbing. Oh, I'm too lazy. Oh shit, I'm at a friend's place. I want to go, but I'll come tomorrow. I was in that state. Then I traveled. I went to Bhutan for about 4 months. I took a break, and then I came back, and it went on like that. It was on and off for a bit. I went to Hampi for 2 seasons, but again, it was just for a couple of days. It was not like a long trip. It was about 3 to 4 days, and I really enjoyed it. But everyone here, you always have that thing which you want to do, but you don't end up having the discipline to really do it regularly. It could be anything. There are like a bazillion people who, and this is the main reason that New Year resolutions even exist. To basically validate the fact that you don't have the discipline to do certain things. It's like, I will start. I will do this. I will diet. No, I am going to read 100 novels this year. There are all these lofty promises we make to ourselves, and maybe they make us, feel better about, okay, I've committed to something, so maybe I'm going to follow up with it. That was much the same with me. I started getting a little more into it in 2012, and I started, I was enjoying it, and now I wanted to get good. Actually, that turn happened at the end of 2011. We have the national championships every year, and that year was taking place in Delhi. And they asked me to host it, to be the MC. And I was on the mic, and I was hosting, and I was watching all these guys climbing these really hard routes and pulling off these moves. I was like, shit, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be the guy on the mic saying, Ale, what a good move, wow, fantastic, guys. I didn't speak like that. But, it was like, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed being on the mic, but it was, there was a part of me who's like, oh, I want to climb like this. I want to be there. And so that was a burn. And then after November 2011, I'm like, okay, fine. That was my resolution point. It's like, okay, I'm going to train. Now I want to get good. I want to get to a point. Still indisciplined, I was going on a trajectory. And then finally, I sort of found my rhythm a little bit the next year. And rhythm would be, I would train for 3 or 4 days, and then I'd miss 7 days, and then I'd come back and train for 2 or 3 days, and then I'd miss another 2 or 3 days. It was like that, but I was, okay, better than before. Then, this happened. This doesn't look like a very nice picture, no? It doesn't. Oh, by the way, the photographer's back there. The guy who's quietly sitting there, he's a photographer. So, this doesn't look like a positive or a motivating picture of anyone. But this, if I have to put it down to my life over the past 6 or 7 years, I would say this is perhaps one of the most positive things that have ever happened to me. I'll tell you why. When you're going after something and you have too many distractions, your vision isn't clear. It's the same way it goes down when people have relationships with someone. I mean, just take India, where everyone is like, like I love you, but ayo na mama sarilla, ಇಲ್ಲ ಕಣೋ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೇಮ್ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ನವ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಮದುವೆ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, what to do. So I mean, you always have these blocks where you're going down one thing but something is distracting you, something else is a supposed limitation, etc., etc. So for me, this was not my breakaway from arranged marriage or anything, but this was that moment of clarity. Me breaking my hand was one of the best things because it gave me lucidity. I had 3 ways to go. One, I broke my hand, I could simply move on from climbing. I could say, look boss, I'm done. Screw this, it's too dangerous, not for me. 2, I could let it recover and I could say, okay, fine, I'll come back at my own time. I'll do it once in a while, but not really expect anything from the sport. 3, I could say, I'm going to beat this injury and I'm going to come back stronger than ever, and I'm going to push myself harder than ever. So those are my 3 options. And I went in the 3rd direction because this was right before our zonal competition. I was sort of getting into rhythm and a couple of people saying, okay, Dhillan's improving, he's doing well this year. And it really burnt me up. I wasn't crying or anything, but it burnt me up and I was just like, I want to get back. I want to get back and I want to get stronger and stronger and I want to improve. And I had to rest for 6 months. 3 months after this, I think I got back on the board and I started trying to climb a little, and the doctor said, no, you've got to rest for 3 more months. In retrospect, I realized that was not the best decision because, physiotherapy and those things are still a little, they lack evolution in India and I could have trained. But anyways, I took a break for about 6 or 7 months, and then when I came back, I was like, now I really, really want to train hard. And this is what happened. I don't know if you guys can see this. So I broke this bone and I broke this bone. I broke both bones. I'll tell you how. So it was a jumping move, yeah. We call that a dyno. Dyno shot for dynamic. So it was kind of like this. I just sort of stimulate that on the board. It was sort of a move like this, where I get on here and I have to jump this way. So I went, I got this hold, and then my body took this huge swing, and then I fell that way. It took this 90, it went sort of parallel to the ground, and then my hand slipped, and when I fell, I think I fell that way, and I could hear the sound. It was like, okay, go on, I knew it. So, but it was good. I went back, I started doing physio, I started thinking a lot about climbing. It was always in my mind. I started watching a lot of climbing videos. I keep coming and watching the comms, keep speaking to people. There was a time when I got so impatient that I couldn't climb with this hand, so I started thinking of routes that I could do with one hand. I started trying all these things. And then, sort of 7 months later, I got back. And that felt incredible. And I had a new perspective on it. And it opened me up to a lot of things. To give you a rundown, that's Hampi. How many of you have been to Hampi? Sure. Wow, okay. A lot of people. So, it's filled with infinite possibilities of rock. And I was asking myself, wow man, you go there for 4 days or 5 days, you can't really climb much because that rock is really harsh and it takes a toll on your skin. So that winter I spent a long season. I spent 3.5 months in Hampi. And one of the ways that I managed to do it was, right now I work as a freelancer, so all I need is a decent internet connection, to program music and put stations together. So as long as I have a dongle, I use that to work on rest days and after climbing, so I could balance my workout. And yeah, so this is the first time I spent a long season in Hampi, and then the next year I spent a good amount of time in Himachal Pradesh. I spent, I think, 2.5 months over there. It was fantastic, it introduced me to this world of outdoor bouldering. And by the way, bouldering is what I do primarily. It's my primary area of interest. to give you a bit of context, you have big rock faces, and for that you use the rope and the harness and stuff. So you call those lead climbs. Sport climbs or trad climbs. Sport climbs is when you clip into anchors at different points, and trad or traditional climbing is when you place your own gear to protect yourself. Bouldering is you just have big boulders, you have the crash pad, and you have hard technical sequences, and then you work them up. We call them problems. It's like finding a solution to a problem. A long climb is called a route, a short climb is called a problem. So bouldering is primarily what I'm interested in. It's incredible. I am biased, but I'm telling you, believe me. So I spent 2.5 months in Himachal Pradesh. It was incredible because I had this. It was high altitude, so we wouldn't sweat. We could climb through the day. We'd wake up at 9 in the morning, and then we'd have breakfast, and then we'd hit the rocks by about 10 or 10:30. And it was good light till about 7:30, 7:45 even. So we climbed, rest, and we had these whole long days of climbing, and it was brilliant, not just because of the climbing in itself, but with any experience. Whether it's where you work, whether it's your art class, whether it's a restaurant you work in as a chef. The most memorable thing about whatever it is that you do, or what makes you really fall in love with something, is your ecosystem. The people that you meet, the people that you form relationships with and you interact with. And nothing exists in a vacuum without that. So this was in Chatru, which is on the way to Kaza and Spiti from Manali, and that little dhaba there, it's called the Chandra Dhaba. It's named after the river that flows right below. It's called the Chandra River. That's been there since 1962, I think, and we stayed there for about 10 or 12 days. It was $50, and we'd give you a pillow and this really warm blanket, and we'd sleep inside the dhaba. And then we wake up in the morning and have breakfast, and meals were $50, $60 for rice, rajma, sabji, unlimited. It was brilliant. And he gave us coffee, and once in a while he had this special, mountain style dry meat that he'd give us. And he loves climbers. So the person who runs this, his name is Lalu. And Lalu loves climbers, yeah. Because you have a lot of people pass by his dhaba and they stop by for a cup of coffee, but climbers are the ones who stay there for a week, 10 days, 3 weeks, a month sometimes. So when we went, he's like, "Oh, you are boulderers, climbers, come, I tell you, come, you sit, you want tea, you want this, you have. Oh, the weather today, not good, it's frictionless." He doesn't climb, but he's interacted with so many climbers that he's learned all of that climbing terminology. Fantastic. The funny part about him is he has this small little white dog. It's this little feisty thing. It goes like that. And he's named it Panther. People do this. I find this hilarious. You go all across Bangalore, very common name is Tiger for a dog. And you find people naming their pugs. That Pomeranians, Tiger, and I don't know who told me this. I think it was my friend Avinash or someone who said there were 2 dogs that a family had. They had a Pomeranian and a Great Dane, and I think the Pomeranian was called Tyson, and the Great Dane was called Pinky or Sweetie or something. So it was one of those. Yeah, they do that. So, anyways, that's Lalu, and I was saying, nothing exists in a vacuum, and one of the best parts of my life in climbing has been the opportunity I've had to meet wonderful, eccentric, enigmatic, inspiring, super people. One of whom is this guy. I don't think anyone in this room recognizes him, but he's a legend. He's one of my favorite people in the world. He's a huge source of inspiration for me, and he's, I think, single-handedly been responsible for developing more bouldering and climbing across India than anyone else. I'll tell you a little bit about him. His name is Pil, P-I-L. Paul, actually, but Pil's his nickname. And he came to, I think the first time he came to India was 1993. And since then, he's been coming every year since 93. He stays for about 4 to 5 months in Hampi. He heads back, renews his visa, comes back, he stays for about 3 to 4 months in Himachal, and he climbs all by himself. And he develops and puts all these opens routes. Opening a route is basically when you see a boulder and it hasn't been climbed before, the first person who's climbed it gets to give it a name and they get to grade the difficulty, and he's done tons of it. And when he came to India, he would introduce himself to the locals as Phil. He's a juggler by profession, that's what he does. So he climbs, and when he's not climbing, he goes to Singapore and Japan and all these places, and he does these juggling shows. It's pretty intense stuff. He walks the tightrope, right? He does things like where he walks the tightrope and he juggles 4 knives at a time. And he had this trick where he had his girlfriend lying below him and he was juggling knives. And I think once it slipped and it kind of scratched over here, but nothing happened. He's a lot of people think he's eccentric, but he's a very, very friendly person. He's got this electric manner. If you speak to him, like, oh, hey, I'm Bill. Yeah, you're talking about climbing. Yeah. And this whole Pillu thing came out because, the locals here in South India, there's an oo, that they add to everything. No one can just end with a syllable. So if you just say Pill, what? Pillu? No, it's Pill. And then Pillu. So he's like, so that went on, and then after a couple of years, he's like, oh, screw it, and I'm just going to call myself Pillu. So whenever you meet him, if you meet him now, he'd introduce himself to you as Pillu. Oh, hey, I'm Pillu. So it was interesting how I met him. It was 2014. I was doing an article for a magazine called the Outdoor Journal. I was doing an article about the bouldering scene in India, profiling a couple of climbers who've done some really hard lines. And as part of that story, I had to give a bit of background and history of, how bouldering started and stuff. I had heard of Phil, like you hear of this mythical creature in the distance where you're like, oh, there is that thing, if you go into that habitat, you might get the chance to see a snow leopard. They're like, oh yeah, Phil, the guy who's climbed all these boulders. And how he lives is, he comes in to Hampi, he goes into a small town to pick up all his supplies. He buys those supplies and then he heads off and he stays in a cave. He cooks by himself, he keeps water there by himself, he climbs by himself, and the only time he comes back into town is either to refill his supplies or to watch a cricket match. So I had to interview Bill, and I had heard he was staying at a place called Gauri Guest House. And I go there, hoping to find him like I would find any normal person. And then the owner says, Bill gone to mountain. I don't know when he's going to come back. I have no idea. I have to get this interview done. Then I go to this other restaurant that he used to hang out at, on his rest days. There's a guy called Raju, who's a waiter there, and he works over there. And him and Phil are really good friends. So I asked him, I said, do you know when is Phil here, or do you know when he's going to be coming? Apilo, I wanted today instead. Apilo on mountain. Wait, today cricket match? Hey, cricket match, 7 o'clock. Okay, cricket match, 7:30. Apilo coming. You come. 7 o'clock. Apilo coming. So, and that was how we land up. This creature who would come from the rocks, and he'd come there for the cricket match, and he'd sit there and he'd take a piece like, hey man, what's this? It's all comedy problem. Why do you play spinners first? And he'd sit and talk. So that's how I met him. And then we spoke about climbing, we spoke about his journey, through life, all these experiences that he's been through. He's a guy who's left a huge impact on me for a couple of reasons. One, his dedication. It's not easy for someone to live like that, to come to a foreign country year after year to, develop something over there and go back and get the visa done and come back and stay alone up in caves for months and do this all by yourself. Two, the fact that he's got a very non-competitive, very positive aspect and outlook of climbing. One of the things that people ask me, or one of the things they tell me is like, hey, I need to work on fitness. It's like, hey, let me do some pull-ups and come, let me do this and come. And we always tell them, low kid, we just start. There's never like the perfect time to start climbing. There's never going to be a time when you are 100% fit and ready to, be a champion climber. Everyone ends up sucking when you start. I suck maybe more than many others, but then trust me, we all end up sucking. And what happens is, in workplaces, in many other sports, there's this very bitchy competitive vibe where you are not treated well until you reach a certain level, where they will look at you and they'll walk past you and be like, oh, I need to shoot, I need to practice. Hey, I'm a you know, the professionals of playing. But one of the things he told me is, don't chase grades. It's never the difficulty of a climb that makes it worth it. It's the movement, it's the aesthetic, it's how much you enjoy it. And always send out positive energy to the person you're climbing with. Sometimes it gets so competitive that, you know, when one person's trying a route and they're about to do it, or they have one move left, the other person who wants to do it before them is like, oh, yeah, come on, but they're actually like, fall, no, don't get the move. I mean, I've found myself being in that position. And he was telling me, you know, you can feel that. When someone is sending that sort of vibe your way, you can feel it. So he's like, never do that. Always send out good vibes to people, and it sort of comes back to you. And we spoke a lot about, you know, how he developed things, and he just walk around, climb one boulder, walk around, climb the next, and he taught me the importance of volume over difficulty. He says, don't work on one thing an entire season. You know, try and climb as many different things as possible, because climbing is like a vocabulary. Instead of learning one word, say condescending, and repeating that over and over again. Condescending. I had a condescending breakfast. I had a condescending dump today. I was constipated, but not today. You know? It's like a vocabulary. Learn as much as you can. Learn as many styles and techniques as you can. And then you will, once you learn a move, you never forget it. And once you climb a route, it's always with you. That movement is with you. And that importance of trying to, you know, do volume, it came from him, apart from many other things. We still talk. He's still in Hampi now, and I call him every now and then, and I talk to him and he asks me what I've climbed, and we have a chat about this, that, the Modi government, and we will move on. Then, next step. So, this was a gear that my life was in. Okay, I was like really getting into this whole thing. And then, my wife got pregnant. Ironically, I got the news on the day that I had finished a problem whose name was Why Like This. That was a problem I put it open, he called it Why Like This, and I finished Why Like This, and then, you know, I got the news, oh, I'm pregnant. So it was like, you know, weird sort of juxtaposition and irony. And, you know, I'm not going to lie to you, initially, to me, I took that in a slightly weird way, and, you know, I started feeling afraid. Oh my God, my climbing lifestyle, my gypsy thing, am I going to be able to do this? How? No, but then what if this, what if that? And the only thing that kept coming into my mind is what if? Will I be able to go out? Will I be able to spend long months out? Will I be able to train hard? Is this going to take that away from me? The financial pressure, blah, 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 all the typical negative things. And many times we look at the media and the things that the media tells us, and we think, the media, they propagate whatever. Bollocks. We all fall for it. Whether it's a bad idea, ad, or whatever it is, we all end up in some way being influenced by media propagation. And here I was, you know, this big cynic, someone who's worked in the media, who was like, still buying into the fact that if you have a child, it is going to be the end of something, and you're going to become a responsible family man, you know, with a slight paunch and a good job, and you drink beer in the evening, and you have lunches with Mr. Banerjee, saying, no, I don't agree with the company policy, and bullshit like that. That didn't happen. That's my son, his name is Arlo. My wife and him are supposed to come over here. His name means confident. It was one of the things that I lacked, you know, belief in myself and confidence, and my wife chose the name, and we're like, I like that meaning, because I like him to have that sort of, you know, confidence from the world, from the time he enters the world, and we both love that. And he's a mighty confident guy. He's 11 months old now. He walks all by himself. He climbs stairs. He hates toys. He hates plastic toys. You get him the most expensive toy and say, what's this? Get out. I want mud. I want stone. I want grass. I want this leftover bottle cap. He's quite a wild guy. What happened after family, and could I integrate family into my climbing life? And that was a challenge for me. Yes, I did. It took a little bit of working around. So what I decided to do is I told myself I'm gonna work freelance because there is absolutely no way I want to sit in an office and not have the freedom to travel and to furiously go after, climbing. At the same time, obviously, I can't stand with a banner on Shivaji Nagar and be like, want to climb, please give money. This is India, boss. They take a picture of the board and they'll carry on. No one's going to give you money. And so I started working freelance for this company, Radio, while I was working for them already. And then I told them very clearly, I can't work full time because climbing is important to me. I need that travel. It's not fair for me to expect that flexibility from you, or fair for you to expect certain working hours from me. And what I decided is from the get-go, we're going to get used to him being an outdoor baby and being used to travel and, like on the move. Now, before I tell you about that, interesting story of who my wife is and how I met her. Her name's Arlo, and when we climb, one of the words that we use to cheer people a lot is Arlo. Arlo in French means come on. So the first time she came, and here's Arlo watching a bunch of climbers all saying Arlo, 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 Arlo. And she was very, man, what's happening? Does everyone know me? Why? She was very disoriented. So I met her in 2008. It was a nice story. I was working for Radio Indigo as an RJ for them at that time. I used to host the 8 to 10 slot. I was doing a show called the Indigo Lounge. And it was November 14th. And I was doing a little Children's Day. And then I was doing this segment on scandalous things people have done in public places. So there were different people saying, oh, I jumped off a train, oh, I peed over here, and there's one girl who comes up saying, yeah, so, we got a little tipsy, and then we, three of us girls, we jumped into this pool topless and we were intoxicated, we went skinny dipping. So I said, okay, I will put this girl on the air. So I don't know what went into me. I called Arlo back right after the call, the number flashing on the screen. I call her back, and I say, Arlo, hi, it's me, Dhillan. Can I take you out for dinner on Wednesday? Just say yes or no. Jeez, man, it's a bit of a tight spot. You just put someone in that. Just say yes or no. And she was like, yeah, okay, I guess, yeah, fine, okay. It was this, oh God, I went on a show. He asked me out for dinner. What do I say? So she said yes. So this was a Friday. I didn't call her on Saturday and Sunday, and she thought that I had sort of forgotten about her. And I was like, I'm not going to call her because I'm shy. I never met this person. I don't know what to say. And we're meeting for the first time on a blind date. So I was like, okay, let me at least keep the conversation for then. So anyways, I went next Wednesday to pick her up. Of course, as is true to my nature, my bike had run out of petrol. I had a puncture. I was late. I was going in an auto. I didn't have the directions. She thought that I ditched her. I think she dressed up a couple of times and then undressed and redressed and all of that stuff. By which time the owner of her house had closed the gate and she had to jump the gate, hand me her purse through the bars, and then she came down after jumping and she turned around and she's like, hi. Right. So that was November 19th, 2008, and it's been about 7 years, nearly 6.5 years that we've been together, and then we got married, we had a kid, etc., etc., etc. So that's how the entire family thing came about. Now, what we decided to do was, when Arlo was really young, get him used to traveling and get ourselves used to traveling and being outdoors with him, because it becomes this big thing if you're not used to traveling with your kids. I mean, many of us have taken vacations with our parents and we know how hassle they sound. He's like, hey, no, don't go there, shoot, no, come back, no, come back. It's this really tense, hassle environment where everyone is panicking and thinking about logistics the whole time. And so he was 8 months old and we took him to Himachal this time. Yeah. And I was staying there, we stayed there for 2 months. I was climbing, I went there to climb, and what we done in terms of the living arrangement was we got this room with an attached bathroom, a small little room, and the owner had set up this little kitchen for us. It was not a fancy chef connoisseur's kitchen. It was just a table with a stove and a gas cylinder, and we bought a couple of utensils, and that was it. So that's how we ate the entire season. We, meaning she, cooked at home because I sucked at that. Not that I don't want to help, I went and I bought pork and I bought meat and all those things, but I'm just really bad at that. She's a freaking fantastic cook, so she cooked at home, and we wanted a kitchen place so we could prepare his food. So yeah, so we prepared his food and we feed him, and that did him, and it really wasn't that hard. I know this is the point where people might have some questions. If you want to interrupt me and ask me questions, you can. I'm just throwing the door open for that. So, a couple of things. First thing, finances. Always. Even the other day, I had a client, a friend of mine, Mahani, saying, "Bro, I don't know, you manage your finances, bro." It's not that hard. You really don't end up spending that much more outside, especially in climbing areas, than you do in the city. I don't drink, I don't smoke, so I don't go out to party and things like that, so I save quite a bit of money there. If you cook at home, let me give you a breakdown of how much we spend for breakfast. I used to eat oats every morning. So one packet of oats was 80 rupees, and that would typically last me for about 13 days. So it's like 85 divided by 13 was roughly, I was spending about $8 a day for breakfast. You add in 1 or 2 rupees more for a banana, and now we have good banana. And yeah, I would spend like $10 a day for breakfast, so it really wasn't that expensive. We got a good deal on the room too. And I don't mind throwing finances open because it's one of the things that people are very close about. They're saying, "Yella helbodu, but dutti maakantu agbadu." Because you see, different people have different limitations. No, it's good for everyone to have a picture. Our rent was $7,000 a month for the room, which worked out to about 230 rupees a day for the 3 of us. That's Arlo, my wife Ale, and me. And we were cooking food at home, so we saved a lot of money on food. We had a bathroom and we had a lovely place for him to play, and the guest house sort of opened out into this wild space with mud, and then you had grass and then a trail that went up the hill in the mountain. And so every time it was like he'd wake up, we'd feed him milk, and then we'd open the door and he'd go, and he'd run out and he'd play in the mud. That did him a world of good. It was one of the things I wanted to do. In the city, you see kids don't move. You either see them with their parents like this all the time. Hi, hello. It's like that. Or the second the kid takes you, blah blah blah. Justified, because you have some twat who drives on the road like his father owns it, and you let your kid walk on the road, and you could just be slammed by that. But the thing is, as a result, children become very spatially limited. Their muscle memory, their understanding of movement become very restricted. So that did a world of good for him. And it worked out pretty cheap. We didn't end up spending that much, and it was not that. The third thing that people have questions about is, so what was your day like? How would you spend time with your family? How was this working? Wake up at about 9 or 8, have breakfast, go and climb the whole day, come back by about 7:30 or so, then we have dinner, and then after that sit and play with Arlo for a while, and then we'd watch a movie, and then on rest days we'd sit and chill together, or we'd take a walk down to Manali. We were staying in Bashish, so it was a 3-kilometer walk downhill, and we walk back up and put him and strap him on, carry him down, carry him back up, play with him, and the schedule went really well. The fourth thing is that people wonder about is, can you commit to climbing as much as you used to before? Definitely. Take that from me. Lokesh has been climbing with me for a few years, and I can say that I'm climbing better than I was before I had a kid. I think I'm more disciplined than I was, I'm more focused, and I'm definitely traveling more than I was before. It's one of the things that we take for granted, freedom, time. Because time means you can scratch your ass and just be a bum. And you're like, I have all the time in the world, now I'll scratch. I can do this for so many years, no problem. And years just go by like that. But when you have something and it becomes finite, every minute, every hour matters, so you get more discipline, you really want to make more of the day. So this is what our climbing sessions were like. This was at a place called Bada Patthar, which means big stone. It was this big, huge, overhanging face, and I was trying this problem, and then the other two, one of them is a friend of mine called Adarsh, and the other guy Drew. They were making a campfire. Adarsh had finished the route, I was still trying it, making a campfire. So after we finished climbing, we had hot coffee, and he was making some food and stuff, so we had it over there. It was a long walk back down. But this is Solang. Oh yeah, this is a really cool boulder. This is a boulder called Solang Journey. And this was one of the first problems established in the area of Solang was done by Phil in 2003 or so. And this is a nice line. There's a story. So let me give you a breakdown of, I've been spitting out names, right? I said Smiling Goddess, this one, Solang Journey and stuff. So the basic idea is the person who climbs it first gets to name it, right? And you can name it anything. You can name it Screw My Boss. You can name it whatever you want. And you have some really, interesting names for border problems. There's a famous one in Hampi that's called Chai Chillam Chapati. There's one called Cosmic Friction. There's one called, there's this huge boulder which has a little tree growing on top, so it's called Ecstasy Tree. And like tons of names. There's one in Himachal, it's called Shepherd Shuffle. And Bill got the idea for that because the way you have to move is a little like this on that problem. And he was working on it and he didn't know how to do the moves, and then the previous night he saw this drunken shepherd sort of like, stumbling across, and he's like, oh yes, maybe this will work. And then he did it the next day, so it's called it Shepherd Shuffle. So this is a line we opened this time. This is my friend Madhu, that's a really nice friend of mine from Spain. His name's Alex. We were working this problem together, and Madhu did it first, so he called it Kellogg's with Alex. Alex is our friend from Spain, and Kellogg's is Kellogg's. Seagull, champions, breakfast, blah blah blah. So it was a really nice problem. The terrain was usually like this, you had big boulders on the hillside, and then you had a beautiful view of mountains in the back, and mountains on this side, and the river and the valley, and then we'd walk up, and then we'd climb, and then we'd rest, and then we'd take some biscuits or dry fruits and stuff, and then we'd be climbing, and then we'd walk further up, we'd find another one, and we'd climb. So our days would go like that. This was a top class problem, one of the nicest ones that we worked on the whole season. So you see the crash pad, you see how it's placed over here? So it's like this. So he's basically spotting me and preventing my fall, and Madhu's holding the crash pad because the fall was like this. So in case I sort of fall this way, he'd pull it in and make sure that I'm in position. This is Manali Forest. There's also great problems, wonderful rock, and that's a friend of mine, Vipin. He's a freelance software developer. He's been on the road for about, 7 months now. He goes to different places, he climbs. That's a friend of ours, Andreas, who's climbing from Germany. It's Abhinav from Delhi. So this subculture is growing. You do have a lot of people around India now who are actually trying to mix their jobs or work freelance or take on projects and earn enough to sustain this lifestyle of traveling and being on the road and climbing and going to different places and really, really pushing hard. So it's not a European thing or a foreigner thing, which is one of the things as Indians we love to do. If there is anything that we don't end up doing or we can't do, ayo bida madella foreign no. That is all European culture. For us, we have the babies and we see it. No man, no. The age of the internet has opened up a lot of possibilities. So it is possible to stay on the road. So this is one of my dream places, yeah. So I thought I'd share this picture with you. I really, really want to go here. I'm planning for a trip, maybe next year, maybe the year after that. This is in South Africa. This is an area called the Rocklands. And it has some of the most dramatic rock you can see. And climbers get so excited when they see this stuff, when we see climbing videos and pictures, that they've started nicknaming it climbing porn, as in pornography, because you'd see four climbers, it's like this, if a non-climber walks in and they see climbers looking at a video, it's just like, it's like that, and to someone sitting on the outside, they're like, oh god, sorry, have I walked in at a bad time, It's that kind of situation. Yeah, this is the Rocklands in South Africa. It's this huge sandstone rock field in the middle of nowhere. It was, this particular rock, the name of this rock is Rhino. If you notice, it looks like a rhino horn. It's one of the most famous problems over there. I don't think I knew black much about that. And before I get into my last picture, so I was thinking, what do I say to close? And if I have to, whatever, I've given you my story, I've given you my journey, and if this is a marketing presentation and I have to sell climbing to you, and if I have to tell you why you should climb, it's hard. One, because it's such a personal activity, but there are many reasons. For one, It's damn bloody good fun. Take my word on this, take it to the bank, I'll give you a month's salary if I'm wrong in this. It's more fun than going to a regular dumbbell gym. It's a lot of fun because it's an activity that is so natural to us, primarily. Babies are not born to lift weights. Sorry for my cynicism, I mean, they're really useful, but we crawl, we walk, we run, we climb. It's one of the 4 primary human motions. So everyone over here climbs and has climbed. It could be a tree, it could be a random rock, it could be a compound wall. You have climbed. There's no reason for me or any climber to feel so much more superior to anyone else, because it is a fundamental motion. So it's in you to climb. It's become a sport where, we give ourselves challenges and we push ourselves. So it's a lot of fun. It's brilliant for fitness. Oh, trust me. We had a pull-up competition some time ago, and we have all these full power muscle mamus coming over there, like, cut's not a fix, cutting's not anywhere. These guys, we have these wily freaking climbers, and these skinny climbers. Location, I was on one team. We're all like working like this, in our shirts, barely fitting us, and going, cut. Hey, you remember, I'm like demolish model. They were like really shocked that we had these gangly little people coming and doing that. So it's a sport that genuinely keeps you very fit, very strong in a lean, healthy way. You exercise your upper body because you need it. You exercise your core a lot. I would say finally your core ends up being the most important physical component of your climbing. Your feet end up getting exercised a lot because it's about movement, and most climbers will tell you that the most important part of climbing is not how you use your hands but how you use your feet. And it's about understanding your body. You feel very in tune with how you move. It's not about bulking up to look like Salman Khan or have man boobs. It's not about that. You feel a lot more light and aware. It's the word for that is kinesthesia. It's muscle memory and awareness. And you don't walk like this. You don't walk like it's nice. It feels good to know how you can move. And these are just physical aspects of it. I think one of the other aspects is and when you climb outdoors, it's a fantastic lesson in friendship and camaraderie, because when you're doing big climbs, you literally put your life in someone's hands. You do. There are a few other sports that allow you to do that. It's not one of those, oh man, I lost the game because that bugger didn't pass. True, but if you fail on a belay or you don't spot someone properly, you end up with this, or worse, you end up with that. Okay? No, I don't mean to be graphic, but there's something really special about putting your life in someone's hands. It builds a kind of friendship. You learn this tremendous sense of minimalism and survival, and it's beautiful, we keep walking through our lives with this constant flux between what do we need and what do we want. And every time the income bracket increases, a want becomes a need. Let's take my favorite product, the smartphone, the iPhone. Yes, there are plenty of apps that are incredible, there are plenty of things that we need. But how many of us really need an iPhone? I need Shazam. I need this. Of course, I need sat-nav and GPS navigation, because it is simply impossible for me to just walk up and ask the guy, "You rainbow with Malaysia?" No, I need that freaking annoying voice. My friend Avinash and me have a lot of arguments about this, because I believe in asking people, and he'll put on that phone of his with that annoying voice, and we've nicknamed that guy Steve. Take right here. In 200 meters, shut up. Okay, and Steve, the navigator, wonderfully misguided us once when we were coming back from Goa at night. We were driving, and suddenly he hears Steve saying, "Take left here." It's like, where's the left? There is no left. Take left here. And Avinash, the obstinate mule, is telling me, "Bugger, Steve is never wrong. There has to be a road, bugger. There has to be a road, bugger." And we find this little tiny, footpath, this mud path, that's all of That's this wide. It's the kind of path that farmers walk on to go to their, tota and stuff. And I'm like, Avinash, this looks like a farmer's path. No, bugger, it links to the highway. And Steve, the moron, was telling us that, oh my god, this is State Highway 31A. I'm like, really, Karnataka government is not so bad that this is the state highway. And we go, middle of the night, we go on that road, and we're just like moving, and then suddenly it just goes into this ditch. And I'm like, Avinash, please, the government couldn't have done like this off-road experience for us. It was ridiculous. It was this big ditch and we had to come up. And I was panicking and I was freaking out. I'm like, man, we're in somebody else's farm. What? I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word because they're going to be taping this. But yeah, I'm like, what the hell's going to happen if these guys come out and they beat us up? And I'm like, I need to climb. No, man. I flipped out, man. I was like one of those chicks on Grey's Anatomy. And Avinash like, calm down, bugger. And then we see a bunch of farmers ahead of us and like, bugger, I'm telling you, they're going to crash us. We're on their road. What if we destroy some crops and this and that? And yeah, well, that was a funny story. Point is, as I said, as your income keeps evolving, wants become needs. And that's a very slippery slope. There's no end to that. It's an iPhone, it's an LED TV, then it's an Ultra LED with Ultra HD curved TV. After that, it's a leather couch, then it's a lazy boy without the Y, then it's a God knows what, a Stanley leather or some such thing. Then it's like, of course, I need 2 cars. My wife needs one, I need one, and we actually need another one because just in case these 2 cars break down, then what are we going to do? It goes on like that. I mean, I have a house, I'm staying, but I need to invest in an apartment. I mean, I'm investing in an apartment, but then I need to have some property, Because what if? No, I need to save up for my son's education because I need to send him to the most expensive college in the US so I can brag to my neighbors, "Hey, my son America returned." So it's a nice counterbalance, that lifestyle. Climbing, being focused on it, it teaches you the beauty of minimalism, and it teaches you that a lot of the money that you spend in McDonald's is worth shit because that's really bad food, and the food that you eat in people's homes and in simple places is extremely good and healthy for your body. And that's another reason that I have so much respect for Bill because it's one of those lessons I keep learning from him. Even if he's staying in guest house, like, hey man, what you need guest house for? You stay in my cave in Badport. There was an area he's developing. He's like, hey, you have caves. Why you need to stay here? And he stays in caves his whole life. So. And the other thing that I want to say is, forget climbing itself for a moment, just about why you should climb. Now there's all this talk, right, about conserving nature, save the tigers, 1 like gives 1 rupee to so and so fund which goes here, and save our forests, let's protest today, it's a Sunday. One of the hardest parts about conserving something, especially nature, is you don't feel for it that much until you've participated in it. It's not possible. You can't, how many of you remember this thing that was on the Netflix called the Ice Bucket Challenge that was going on a while back? So you had all these people who 1 like for the Ice Bucket Challenge, and many of them didn't know the full form of ALS. And it was this far-out disease, and there were plenty of other diseases that were local, that were happening in India, that didn't have a fancy viral campaign behind it. So it's kind of like that. It may become fashionable to like something and spread a message, but it becomes really hard to feel for it. And one of the most beautiful ways to participate in the nature that you want to conserve is to climb. Because our country is full of bloody fantastic rock. It's full of ancient, storied, fantastic rock. And a lifestyle that few other lifestyles can beat. Granite at Hampi is between 2 to 3 billion years old. It's the oldest granite in the world. And the other thing, also, the last thing really is, there's all this talk, even in corporate places and offices, I'm sure everyone here knows that women end up getting paid less than men for similar roles, and there's all this thing of, even in a sport like Wimbledon, another sport in a tournament like Wimbledon, tennis, the women's champion gets significantly less than the men's champion. And they still make the women play 3 sets and the men play 5 sets because, of course, we are the superior, the greater sex, and we don't give birth and push things out of our vagina. Hey, I'm not taking that word back. It's a biological word. It's not a bad word. So the government, whatever. I mean, women tend to end up getting underestimated when it comes to physical feats. Childbirth and a woman's pain tolerance, I think, is far, far, far more than anything a man can tolerate. I thought this fracture was bad, and then I saw my wife giving birth to Arlo, and it was like, good Lord. I mean, it was a beautiful moment and all of that, but you know what I'm saying. And why I encourage people to try climbing is it is one of the world's great equalizers. There is hardly a sport in the world where you will find a 13-year-old girl and at the same time a 37-year-old man at the top of the field. It never happens. Men usually in traditional competitive sports end up being stronger and performing better than women. Not in climbing. Not in climbing. This is not a patronizing statement. One of the world's greatest climbers is a 14-year-old girl whose name is Ashima Shiraishi. She's a Japanese origin girl who's basically out of New York. And she is one of the strongest climbers in the world, period. Not one of the strongest teenage female climbers, no. It's one of those sports that lends itself to so much of flexibility because the way our coach says this very often, because men tend to climb with strength. We have strength to like, it's ugly the way we climb, honestly. But women tend to climb more with balance and bodily understanding, and you know, like better hip movement because women are biologically equipped. So he always tells us, climb more with women. Your movement becomes better. You become a better technical climber. Don't keep climbing with men all the time because you just become a power and strength climber. And the way you do a route and the way I do a route can be completely different. It's not like, oh, I just don't have Dhillan's height or his thing, so I can't do it. And women have certain distinct advantages in the physical aspects of climbing that men will never have. Flexibility for one. The ability to pull on really, really small holes. It's a joke in the climbing world. When we have big holes, men end up, being better because they have bigger palms. With these really, really tiny holes, women can always pull on them better. And it's like, oh yeah, that's a girl's route. I'm slapped. No, it's like either we can do it or we can't. Women end up being better when it comes to crouchy positions for that because their hip and all those areas are a lot more open. So it's one of the great equalizers of the world, really. And I could offer you a bazillion other reasons to climb, but the use is every one of you gets like a 3-session pass here at EQ, courtesy of the very modest Kirtana who runs the gym. So you guys can climb for free over here for 3 sessions. So yeah, please feel free to try it out, and we can teach you basic movement and technique and how it works, and then you can go into more physical, technical aspects of what this kind of hold is and what that sort of hold is, and see how it makes you feel. Whether you pursue it or not is one thing, but I would love for you to feel like it's worth really, really going after whatever it is that you love. Like that, by the sense of the word. Like really grab life by the balls and whatever you love, really go after it, because it's not worth the excuses, it's not worth saving the time. There is always time, so thanks. Hey, the last picture, oh yeah, this one, sorry, this is Chatru again, and that's typically day out, and I thought it's a dramatic closing picture. I was walking away, the distance, all of that stuff. Yeah, thank you so much for being a wonderful audience.